Welcome to the debut episode of the No Wheat Geek. It's the NWG on YouTube. Now, I'm a guy that has another channel, if you've ever seen me on eBEFOREi, but this is something new. I have 0 subscribers on this channel. This is brand new, and so why don't you join me? This is kind of a test debut episode as we kind of try to sift through all the pop culture garbage that exists out there. There's some good stuff too. But there's a lot to weed through on a daily, if not weekly basis anyway. And so I want to have this YouTube channel where I can just talk about things going on in Hollywood, sci-fi, things I enjoy like pro wrestling, toy collecting. Got some kind of hard to find figures sitting on front of me right here. What has happened with some of our television shows like Doctor Who, Star Trek. These are things that used to have great meaning for me, and they've kind of fallen off the wagon, so to speak. So, again, these are things that I want to talk about going forward, and this is really just a test run using StreamYard as we do this debut episode of the No Wheat Geek, a soft trial. If you happen to stumble upon this, which I don't know that many of you will, but if you stumble upon this and you are interested in me, the channel, the topics that I discuss, please do me a big favor and just thumb up the video and subscribe. Because again, we're starting from scratch. I have 3,500 subscribers on eBEFOREi. I could have started this there, but I wanted to just start over and do something brand new with you. So join me on this journey. Let's talk about some things. I've got a browser pulled up, and basically I've gone into an RSS reader. I use Newsify, and I've sort of highlighted the things that I want to talk about today. Again, this is going to be kind of a short broadcast, but let's talk about some of these things in detail. On the wrestling front, yes, that's right. I'm even going to talk about wrestling. WWE is facing a scheduled conflict with the venue during WrestleMania 37 week. This is bad news. So this comes from SE Scoops. Andrew Ravens reports. No one knows what the future holds with COVID-19. Yeah, we get that. WrestleMania 37 is scheduled to take place on March 28th, 2021 at the SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. Holds up to 70,000 people. Now, along with it comes other events that take place during the week. For those of you that don't know, WrestleMania weekend is this huge thing where wrestling organizations from all over the country, all over the world, come into wherever Mania is taking place. And there's events by all of them, including WWE, who hosts Mania. They make it a whole weekend-long thing, and they cap it with, usually they do a Hall of Fame. That's what I'm trying to think. They do a Hall of Fame ceremony. They also do an NXT show. Then they do the Friday Night SmackDown, the Monday Night Raw. That's all sandwiched in between WrestleMania. Well, the problem is that it might be that the venue triple booked. Going back to the article, it appears that WWE is dealing with some scheduling conflicts as musical group Grupo Fermi. Please tell me that if I'm pronouncing it wrong, let me know how to pronounce it, and let me know if that group is any good, because I'm old and I've never heard of them. But they announced in August that they will play the Staples Center that week. The arena is selling tickets to shows on Friday, March 26th and Saturday, March 27th for the concert. So as a result, that would conflict with SmackDown and NXT TakeOver. Now, that's a big news. As of this writing, they say WWE has yet to announce any changes to its schedule. So what are they going to do? That's an interesting question. I don't know whether or not they would try to move those events to a different venue, or would they just try to play hardball and say, all right, look, you're not having your little concert here. We're booking this venue. Here's the money. Now let's make this happen. And they can do that. Love or hate WWE, they do not lack money. So if they want to make this happen, they certainly can do that. So interesting. We'll see where that goes. On the movie front, some rumors Joaquin Phoenix has offered big money to reprise the role for Joker. Did you guys see Joker? I mean, I saw it. I liked it. I thought it was really, really dark. I don't want to. Is it possible to spoil a movie that's been out for that long? It leaves the audience with some real questions. Did the movie even happen? Did what we see in the film actually happen in the film? Because there's a chance that it was the story of a madman who just imagined all of it. Now, that's not confirmed. That is definitely theory. But to me, Joker was perfect as is. It was dark, it was disturbing, it left the viewer with questions. You don't really know if it ended exactly as it showed you, or you don't know if it ended in his head. And to me, Hollywood today spends far too much time over explaining and backstories and prequels and sequels. That stuff needs to stop because the beauty of a film like Joker is it just was. It was this little piece that should have had lore all around it, but we didn't really get into anything other than Joker's descent potentially into madness. But now here's the thing, it made money. It made a lot of money on a small budget. So to me, that almost says, all right, they have to do it, right? Now, you can't make an actor reprise a role. And I don't think that if they tried to do a Joker 2 with someone other than Joaquin Phoenix, it would work. In my opinion, it would tank. It would absolutely sell a few tickets, but nowhere near what this one made, because part of what made this film feel real, like a punch in the gut, was because of the acting performance of Joaquin Phoenix. He might be crazy, don't get me wrong, but man, can he act. And what an incredible film. So let's read a little bit about this article. This was a quote insider, so grain of salt. By the way, I should say this comes from Bounding Into Comics. Great site. Please go to Bounding Into Comics for your entertainment news. An insider at the UK Mirror said that Phoenix is being offered $50 million, $50 million to reprise the Oscar-winning role of Arthur Fleck for 2 more movies. I mean, I would do it for $1,000, but $50 million. Kind of hard to turn that down. Joaquin initially felt Joker was a standalone movie, said the insider, but he's changed his tune. Funny how $50 million will change one's tune. He says he wants to play the character again, despite the controversies that came with the release last year. Listen, the only controversy is that it was a good movie. And how, the mainstream media doesn't understand that movies don't have to be built around the media hype. It can just have its own hype. And it was pegged as too violent. And it was a movie about a madman. And it really wasn't that violent until the end. It was more of just a psychological, just descent into madness is really what it was. The insider alleged that a timetable has been set for production on the sequels and noted that Warner Brothers has also courted commitment from the Joker director Todd Phillips and producer Bradley Cooper. They plan to make 2 sequels in the next 4 years, along with a long-term commitment to Joaquin and his Joker director Todd Phillips, and the producer offered the source. They added, it's all about getting Joaquin. I agree. That's what I said to start this. If they don't get Joaquin Phoenix, this is dead on arrival. And I can't see them spending anywhere near that much money to bring in someone else to play the Joker. I don't even think they should make that movie, yet alone spend money on it. Despite the fact that it's being, quote, negotiated, says the source, the scripts are being written and Joaquin is very engaged with it. Now, does that mean that this is all about money? Not necessarily. Again, $50 million is no small amount of money. Trust me on that. But if the script is good enough, does someone with the artistic integrity of Joaquin look at it and go, you know what? I want to see this character continue. It's possible. My only advice, just a YouTuber starting a brand new channel with 0 subscribers, By the way, if you're just now joining me, this is my first video on this channel. Please do take a second and subscribe if you want to support me on this journey. I appreciate it. But going back to this, what should Joaquin do if he wants to see this thing advance and take the character in a different direction and he believes in the story? That's great. My advice, don't try to connect it with anything else. Don't try to connect it with the woke man. I mean, the Batman. Don't try to connect it with Pattinson. Don't try to connect it to Michael Keaton. Don't put it in the Flash. Don't make it an alternate universe. Just make it its own thing. Don't put yourself in the boundaries of these other films. Do your own thing. And honestly, I think that would go a long way to making something like this a success. Just my take. Moving on to some more stories. Disney's live-action Mulan remake bombs at the Chinese box office. Has anybody seen Mulan? I have not. I've heard it's okay, but there are certainly some issues. Disney, by the way, this also comes from Bounding into Comics by Spencer Bakuli. Bakuli? Correct me, Spencer, if I'm wrong. This is, quote, despite their working relationship with the Chinese government during production of the film, Disney's live-action Mulan remake has bombed in its opening week in China. Yeah, that, tell you what, that could be the new trend, and we could talk about that. Let's keep going. How much money did the movie not make? Well, what it did make was the equivalent of $8 million on its opening day. A film that had a $200 million budget. Now, that budget was given pre the beer bug. I don't like us to say the actual name of the thing, but the thing that caused Hollywood to completely stop, they weren't anticipating that. They were expecting this movie to make money at the international box office, the US box office, but movie theaters are struggling right now. That being said, that's a low number, and that 200 million budget, that was already spent. It's already done. So what are these companies going to do? All right. Disney expected the Chinese market to contribute significantly to the film's box office and, quote, tear up record books. That ain't happening anymore. Aside from the bugs, related circumstances that have led to widespread reduction in cinema revenue, Mulan's failure was facilitated by a general dissatisfaction with the quality of the film, as the film currently holds a 4.7 out of 10 on Chinese review site Douban and a 7.7 on ticketing platform Maoyan. I'm sorry, I'm butchering these names. But it didn't get good reviews. Now, could there be political reasons as to why it didn't? Sure, absolutely. Just like in the United States. If you question that, go to Rotten Tomatoes, look at some awful films and TV shows, and you'll see these things happen. Now, that being said, what happens if the movie theaters don't recover from the bug? What happens? If the movie theaters don't recover, how are these movie production studios going to spend $200, $300 million on a film? All right, forget that. How are they going to spend $50 million on a film? Joker, we just talked about, was going to pay Joaquin $50 million for that movie. That's just his fee, okay? Forget the rest of the film. What happens if movie theaters don't recover and people are fed up with Hollywood's over wokeness, over political, in your face? What if people just stop spending money? Do movies continue? Does everything move to television? Do they move to the Disney Pluses of the world? Is the budget for the Disney Pluses of the world, are they going to match what theatrical releases were? Can you imagine an entertainment industry where people that, I'll quote Nerdrotic, who calls them the adult pretenders. Can you imagine if the adult pretenders got paid salaries that an average working American receives for, I don't know, working in IT, being a school teacher, being a firefighter or a police officer? hey, we're going to give you $30,000 for the year to make a few movies. Do you think they'd still do it? And what would that do to the culture, this elitism that happens in Hollywood today? I'll tell you, it would completely shake the foundation of what it means to be a star in 2020 forward. Now, do I think that's going to happen? No. But would it be interesting? And would it open new avenues for people to start really using their creativity above retelling of stories and cashing in for a quick buck? I think it could be one of the greatest things that happened for entertainment, period. But we'll see. Always the possibility. I don't think it's going to happen. But boy, would it be interesting if they said, hey, Joaquin Phoenix, we'll pay you $150,000 to work for 1 year with a couple of films. That's it. And by the way, that mansion that you live in, nope, you've got to live in a subdivision or an apartment complex. You're going to live somewhere that is not behind the gated palatial communities that most Hollywood celebrities live in today. I think that would be incredible, but it's not going to happen. I don't think so. But interesting thought. Love to get your thoughts on that. My last story that I have on my initial brand new live stream. By the way, if you're new, you're just joining, I am doing this live. This is the debut podcast of the No Wheat Geek. Why do I call it that? Because I can't eat gluten. So I'm the No Wheat Geek, and I love pizza. And gluten-free pizza is okay, but it's not that great. Anyway, let's move on. My last story, Neve Campbell officially back for Scream 5. This comes from Geeks and Gamers website. Please go to Geeks and Gamers, a great website. Jeremy over there put a ton of time and allegedly, according to what he's telling everybody, money into the site. So definitely go over there, sign up, and be part of that community. Neve Campbell was huge. She used to be on a show called Party of Five, I think. Wasn't that the show she was on? I'm going back into the 90s. Then when Scream 1 came out, it was really something different because it was a parody sort of the horror pop culture. You know, it wasn't a straight up comedy, but it was it was a different take, and it was good. And Neve Campbell was hot at the time, not talking about her appearance, but just her level of stardom at the time was a, she was up there. She was a name. And we had Courtney Cox, David Arquette. That might have been where they met, which they later married. And so now they're talking about potentially bringing Neve Campbell back into Scream 5. My only issue with that is, does anybody care anymore? My kids are ages, well, they're over 10, they're less than 20. All right, I have two kids. I promise you, they've never heard of Scream before. They don't know what that is. They've never heard of Neve Campbell. I can bet you $1 they don't know. Bet you $5 they don't know who Neve Campbell is. They probably don't know who David Arquette and Courtney Cox. They might remember Courtney Cox from Friends reruns that they might have seen online. But do they care? We just talked about how Mulan, with a $200 million budget, made nothing in China. Would Scream 5 make any money here in the States? I don't know. I don't think so. I'm actually surprised that this is perhaps something that's happening. Let's see. The validity of Scream 5 hinges on Neve Campbell as Sidney Prescott. Yep. And Wes Craven. Okay. It says her involvement does suggest that Scream 5 will take place in Woodsboro, which is smart for a surprise sequel like this. The new people are there just to be pretty and get murdered, so I'll defer to the casting folks for that, says the article. Scream 5 now has a release date of January 14th, 2022, which means next Halloween will most likely be a dud for horror movies. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. I actually think that this is a mistake, but that's just me. Again, I don't think many people today know what Scream is. I don't think they know who Nev Campbell, Courtney Cox, David Arquette, and to have the fifth entry in the series debuting in a time that's very uncertain for movie theaters. Now, could something like this perhaps be successful on HBO Max? Could it be successful on an at-home streaming avenue? Yes, I think so. I think that's a whole different thing. I think people my age are subscribing to all sorts of things online, and we might not be anxious to go to the theater, but we might pay a few bucks to see something online. So we'll see. Anyway, those are all of my starred items for this broadcast. That's all I have to show you. I am very appreciative of everybody that has tuned into this, even if just by accident. Now, I'm going to keep this recording in the feed, and I'll start promoting it in other areas. So I suspect that most that do end up watching this have not seen it live, but I would love to interact with you in the future. So I will be doing more live streams. Again, do subscribe if you want to join me on this journey. And also turn on notifications so that when I do set up live streams, you'll be notified and you can follow along in the fun. So thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate it very much. And we will see you back here again real soon. Bye.
This vehicle is leaving the station. Please hold on. Please move to the center of the vehicle and away from the doors.